monopoly and build monopolies. They have, unfortunately. But I think, again, this is what I was saying earlier about the World Economic Forum. There's an effort to sell this since they couldn't sell it from the left. The goal now is to try and sell it somehow from the right. And to try and frame it under metrics and dialectics that'll be more appealing to the group that was most against these policies just a few years ago. And unfortunately, with AI and all of that, it could happen if people aren't vigilant. Just a few years ago.
In this recent interview with Chris Hedges, Whitney Webb uncovers how U.S. authorities have, for decades, maintained secret databases and surveillance programs that target ordinary Americans under the radar. She shows how contemporary pre-crime technologies and legal frameworks are built on this legacy, expanding the state's ability to monitor, profile, and even detain citizens without public scrutiny.
Vendors, even when this inaccuracy is demonstrated. So to me, that says that their goal is to have us induce and be obedience by the fact that you're being watched all the time, and anything you may do could be used against you, even if you're not doing anything wrong now. An algorithm could determine that certain, errant behaviors warrant you being added to a list of some type. And actually, Larry Ellison of Oracle, who is one of the main funders of Tony Blair's institute, that's one of the biggest pushers for digital ID in the UK, said this at an Oracle shareholder meeting that, we're recording and surveilling everything, and citizens will be on their best behavior because they have to, essentially, paraphrasing.
The fact that Donald Trump is listening to that guy is terrifying to me. I mean, he has put some people around him on this tech board that are not friends of freedom and liberty. They're just not. Larry Ellison is leading that pack.
Yeah, a lot of them are I would argue overtly and also covertly globalist. You have people, in that network you just mentioned, serving, for example, on the steering committee of the Bilderberg Group, which is, a well-known closed-door meeting, globalist conflab. And unfortunately, I think some of them anyway, have been able to characterize their policies as libertarian, for example, even though some of those same oligarchs are on record saying that the free market is for losers. If you want to get rich, build a monopoly. And build monopolies, they have, unfortunately. But I think, again, this is what I was saying earlier about the World Economic Forum. There's an effort to sell this since they couldn't sell it from the left. The goal now is to try and sell it somehow from the right. And to try and frame it under metrics and dialectics that'll be more appealing to the group that was most against these policies just a few years ago. And unfortunately, with AI and all of that, it could happen if people aren't vigilant. Just a few years ago, someone like Elon Musk was a major promoter of things like carbon markets and pricing carbon, for example. And that was actually why he had a falling out with Trump in Trump's first administration, was because Trump pulled out of the Paris agreements, and Elon Musk was like, well, I can't have that. So have these oligarchs really changed, or have they instead tried to make themselves more appealing because they've noticed the change in public opinion and want to try and get, us to continue to buy into their solutions that they have a lot of money to spend convincing us are actually good and rebranding them. And again, this is why I say it's important to focus on the policies specifically.
How do we?
Yeah, in addition to saying that everything will be tokenized, he's said that everything will soon be on the same universal digital ledger or database, and that everything on that database will have a unique identifier number. So for you as an individual, your identifier number will presumably be your digital ID or directly linked to that. But everything will have a digital ID. The tokenization agenda in particular seeks to tokenize not just assets that we traditionally think of, like real estate, for example, or gold, or physical assets as well as digital assets like Bitcoin, there's a major effort connected with people like Fink and also people like Mark Carney, who's now Prime Minister of Canada, to tokenize the natural world and transform it into financial assets. And there was an attempt to do this to an extent under the Biden administration, I believe, through the Department of Interior with natural asset corporations, but that has not gone away. And there are groups. For example, one of the creators of the ETF model originally, which BlackRock now owns, iShares. His name is Peter Kenez, I think is how you pronounce it. He's trying to turn the Amazon rainforest into a digital commodity, sort of similar to Bitcoin in terms of like the scarcity idea that, each hectare of the Amazon rainforest would represent a token, and then financialize it that way. And then each hectare would then have its unique identifier, right, on the blockchain, and would be, serviced by surveillance drones and all sorts of stuff. So even our most like natural, the places we conceptualize as the most natural places on Earth, these people want to come in, place surveillance technology and, tokenize it and put it on a blockchain and use it to, I would argue in the case particularly of natural asset corporations.
Webb further reveals that Israeli intelligence agencies have deliberately built startups to act as covert arms of their operations, gaining contracts with key U.S. infrastructure and emergency systems. She explains how these firms, with the help of influential donors and government connections, have become deeply embedded in the machinery of U.S. surveillance and control. The result is a system where foreign and domestic interests are intertwined, and the true reach of institutional power is kept hidden from the public.
What are the ones we should be avoiding right now?
Well, I think people should do their own research and look at who owns what. But a lot of these billionaires, you have, people like Larry Ellison and Eric Schmidt, the Google guys, people like Peter Omidyar, who were on the left, Reid Hoffman, Bill Gates, right? And then you have, people like Elon Musk and Peter Thiel and the PayPal mafia crowd. Most of them frame themselves as libertarian. If you look at their philosophy, their own words, they're overtly transhumanist. A lot of them, despite saying things to the contrary, want global government in some form. And, the ones on the supposedly libertarian side frame it as having a CEO in charge of everything, but a CEO that would govern as a dictator. So I don't ultimately see that as much better, given all this technology that's would be in the hands of this one, or this very small group of people, but they don't own everything. They own a lot of technology, obviously, and technological platforms, social media, and all sorts of things. But it's up to people if they want to continue using those services and supporting these people, because ultimately they need us to make their system work. They want to harvest us for data, and like I said earlier, they want to use us as bootloaders for their digital intelligence. And they can't continue to improve and feed the AI without us doing it for them. They can't do it alone. So,
but people they're not likely to leave things that make their life easier. They're just not.
Yeah, well, that's the price of convenience, isn't it? And I think a lot of the effort to enslave us has been to cajole us and influence us with convenience and comfort, but also in theory, prison is comfortable, right? In the sense that you have a roof over your head and they bring you food. And I mean, a digital prison without walls, could be similarly comfortable, and you wouldn't have to lift a finger to fight, for your freedom, but we can still, you wouldn't have to lift a finger to fight for your freedom. You would just willingly walk into the system, right? But those of us that don't want to live in the system, have to do something. And so I think we're at a crossroads, and have been for several years, where those of us that don't want to walk into this have to actively build alternatives. And if you don't have, a ton of people in your community doing that, maybe you should reach out and build awareness. But if you have people that are aware of this around you, it's important to build, I would argue, local resilient networks that don't depend on this infrastructure. There's still open source alternatives to a lot of the big tech platforms out there. And I still think that I'm still hopeful that there is time. But, ultimately at the end of the day, if they're pushing us towards a post-human future, I think at some point people will realize that they don't want to lose what makes us human. And so much of what we're being pushed to use AI for are creative pursuits that help define us as human, right? Making art, making music, writing. These are the things that we're being told to outsource to artificial intelligence, not necessarily the tedious stuff, right? So what's going to be left for us when we outsource of this all to AI? Will we allow ourselves to be cognitively diminished to the point that we can't even create anymore? And then what kind of, humans are we at that point? So I think it's very important.
Webb cautions that these covert programs and partnerships enable a permanent state of surveillance and potential repression, all under the pretense of security and innovation. She urges the public to stay aware of these hidden networks, to question mainstream narratives, and to seek out independent alternatives. Webb's findings make it clear: these are the secrets those in power hope you never discover.